Welcome back to Rob Hunter TV. I am here to talk to you about a discovery that I had made recently. Not a discovery, but an observation that I had made recently while listening to Michael Jackson. I listened to some of the demos, and as I started to think about, how the music sounded, I started to realize I think Michael left Quincy a beat too soon. When you look at Michael before Quincy, so I think his career should be summed up in two. It's like Jesus. BC, it was a BC and AC. This need to be BQ and AQ. Okay, Michael Jackson before Quincy and Michael Jackson after Quincy, I think is how his career should be summed up. And I think that the more that I started to analyze it, the more I started to realize that Quincy is not given enough credit, and we know how great Quincy is. But what gets lost in all of this is, I think, how much of the bad music that he kept Michael from creating. See, a lot of people think that Off the Wall was Michael's very first solo album. It was not. Off the Wall was Michael's fifth album. Got to Be There was the first, then Ben, then Music and Me, which I love that song. The album, and then Forever Michael. Right, Forever Michael was released in 1975, 4 years before he got with Quincy Jones. And I think that the fact that most of y'all don't know that, I think is indicative of the magic of Quincy, right? So you didn't even know that Michael had four commercial releases before that, and then after Quincy, the magic of Michael is actually born, right? So if you look at Forever Michael, which was Michael's fourth album, the one right before Quincy Jones, it sold 100,000 copies, 100,000. Peaked at 101 on the charts, 101. And then we got the album right before it, which is Music and Me. And that was at 92. That was released 2 years before that in 1973, right? So Music and Me came out. It peaked at 92 on the Billboard charts. And then it started to go down from there, right? Forever Michael peaked at 101. I don't even think that's the left side of the charts, right? So we think of Michael as this hit-making machine, but he needed Quincy Jones to unlock or to really reach the potential of what we'll come to know as the king of pop, right? Because he wasn't the king of really a whole lot solo. Like Michael's success, the largest parts of it came from just being in the group, right? Being in there with his brothers, but all the solo stuff really left a lot to be desired for. Quincy and Michael released 29 commercial tracks, I believe it was, and it was shit like Michael wanted. Think about this. Michael wanted bad to be a 3 CD set. 3. They don't need to be all that shit. Quincy kept us from that. Quincy told Michael no. So Michael wrote 66 songs and recorded 33 of those songs. And while Quincy was working on a couple other albums, Michael had 2 studio sessions going. He had an A team, he had a B team, and they worked around the clock. They literally had to bring some of those guys out on stretchers. That's how much Michael was overworking. And this was much to the chagrin of Quincy Jones. When Quincy Jones heard about this and was able to get in and start working on Bad, he totally fired the B team, and justifiably so. Michael's got all this creativity, but Michael needed Quincy Jones. Quincy was the Merlin of this, right? Quincy helped Michael take the sword out of the stone, whereas Michael, without him, was left to run amok. It's like a guy who can run real fast, right? Like Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt needed a track coach to reach all that greatness. Well, when you look at Michael Jackson, he had 4 whole albums before Quincy Jones. None of them even went gold. And so what was the difference? The difference was Quincy. The difference was when Quincy got in there with him and Rod Temperton, and they were able to actually tap in to what Michael was trying to do. And so Michael wrote a letter to himself, where he had made some declarations about him being the greatest. He was going to be the greatest artist in the world, and all that stuff came true. So you have to give Michael credit for the intentionality, right, of wanting to become great. But in that same space, I think that everybody, I don't think there's very many artists that go in the studio with the intention of not making the best material that they can make. Oftentimes the difference is, right, the producer that's able to bring your vision to life. So Michael went in with 4 other sets of, producers, and he came out with first album, probably had some hype, right? Gotta Be There, which I love. Debuted at 14. It actually went gold, so that's wrong. This first album went gold. Second album, Ben, peaked at 5. And then sort of the cat got out of the bag a little bit. I believe those were probably a little bit more based on hype, if you will. So then we had Music and Me peaked at 92. And then Forever Michael peaked at 101. And so you can see the effect. Obviously, Off the Wall came. It sold, I believe, Off the Wall has sold 20 million records right now, year to date. 20 million albums. And so that's the difference. And I don't know if you'll ever see a jump like that. Most artists nowadays, I mean, obviously music has changed so much, but most artists, you're not getting 4 solo albums and 1 gold album out of the 4. You're just not getting that nowadays. But I mean, this was a different time. When Michael left Motown, he was able to get with Epic, and then he was able to change producers, and that's how Quincy got into the fold. So all the great music that Michael made when he was a child, that was with the Corporation, and Dola Holland Dozier, like the Funk Brothers. And so when Michael got with Epic, when he was able to finally leave Berry Gordy, that's when that marriage happened. But when you think about what would Michael's career have been without Quincy, is one of the, I'm glad we'll never know the answer to that question. And we did actually experience some of it right after Michael had left Quincy after Bad, which I don't understand how or why that happened. Michael said that, well, it was relayed to Quincy that Michael thought that Quincy had lost his mojo a little bit, citing the fact that Quincy wanted to incorporate or wanted to explore more rap options. It felt like rap was really on the rise back in 86, 87. And Michael thought that Quincy was off on that projection. And Michael thought that rap had actually seen its better days and rap was on its way out. Rap was a fad, and he couldn't understand why Quincy thought that rap had this big bright future. Again, that's from Quincy's own words, not mine. So when you look at that, right, you look at his first album. I'm sorry, if we go Off the Wall, 20 million records. If we go Thriller sold 40 million, 50 million, some say 75 million. They didn't have RIAA back then, but the numbers, obviously, it's the biggest selling album of all time. And then you had sold 30 million records, right? 30 million records, so released 5 #1 singles. That's the first and only time that has ever been done, still to this day. And so I don't understand what in your mind makes you want to go, you know what? I think I want to do something different. And I understand his creative bug was bothering him, but goddamn, like to leave after 30 million records, or probably at the time it was probably closer to like, maybe 10 million, 15 million records, but to leave, but he did have them 5 #1 singles though. So if you have already set new benchmarks with this album, why would you choose to leave? Like, I don't understand that. There's too much success, I guess. Anyway, having said that, afterwards he left and he ended up doing Dangerous, and Dangerous had some good music, but I believe after Michael leaves Quincy, there aren't any more great albums. Dangerous is a good album, it's not a great album, and it sold a lot of records, right? Sold a lot of records, but Black and White was the first single off that album. Don't nobody play that no more. Don't nobody play Black and White. And that's when Michael was doing the big premieres, like the big premieres across all the networks. If y'all weren't around back then, when Michael dropped the video, particularly on that Dangerous album, it would be a network premiere, and it was on all the networks at the same time. It was like when the president come in, we interrupt this program to bring you the State of the Union, and you can't get nothing else on, especially back then because we didn't have satellite back then. It was just cable. So when the president came on and interrupted your programming, it was hard to find another station that didn't have it. Now you could just turn his ass off whenever you want. Well, back then, Michael's video would come on Fox, CBS, ABC, NBC, all at the same time. All at the same time. You turn it and everybody wanted to see it. So part of the success of that album was just the phenomenon still of Michael. People still feeling the Bad effect. People still feeling the Thriller effect. And it's not like Black or White was a bad song. It just wasn't a very good song. It was just okay. And he did all this CGI stuff I believe that was the first time that the CGI was in the video. He turned into a panther at the end, and the people were morphing into other people at the end, and it's black and it's white. But I have not got in my car and been like, hey, let's turn on that Black or White. Very, very few songs off the Dangerous album that we turned on. Now, there was some great songs on the album, right? The best song probably off the album is Remember the Time, right? Which was a great song. But I think the issue, maybe the biggest issue, this is what I think. I think after Michael left Quincy, everybody after that was in awe going in the studio with Mike. You know, Teddy Riley has mentioned it. Rodney Jerkins has mentioned it. But the problem with that is that nobody's telling Michael no.
You can't tell Michael no. Let's play some hide and go see. I'm like, okay.
Quincy told Michael no. We're not doing a triple album on Bad. Y'all realize Michael wrote 800 songs for Thriller? 800. Why are you writing 800 songs, man? Michael was probably asking Quincy, did he listen? Quincy was probably like, yeah, I listened to it. But he probably ain't listened to like 700 of those songs, right? But 800 songs, right? And I think that once Michael left Quincy, never ever in the room again was he not what he thought was the creative superior, right? I mean, going in the studio with Teddy Riley is a great producer. Obviously, they weren't able to recreate the magic that Quincy, and I'm not saying that they tried to do that or even recreate the success rather, right? But Jam, right? Nobody gets in the car and be like, hey, turn on that Jam. Nation to nation and Jam, here comes the man. Jam's not a bad song, but let's face it, it's not Rock With You. It ain't even Speed Demon. It's a good song, right? And the cool video, once again, Michael bringing out the theatrics, right, with Michael Jordan in the video, but it wasn't the greatness that we came to know with the other three albums. And I think that when Michael walked in, he got to do whatever he wanted. He got to create whatever song he wanted. Quincy was like, look, we're not doing this. We're going to record the songs I tell you to record. And that's how this is going down. And obviously Quincy was right on each and every case. He was absolutely 100% correct. I'm not saying he shouldn't have left him, but how you going to leave after 5 #1 singles and 30 million records sold? Like, I don't know why you're doing that. There's no reason. That's like you have the best pizza in the world. And you be like, you know what? I don't want to make the pizza like this no more. Like, let's do something. Like, no, you keep making it like how you got it. You can't improve perfect. Well, Michael tried to improve perfect, and you know, I think he fell short. And then going into history, you know, history was just more of and so as you move forward into these other albums, you just don't have anybody there to reel Michael in. You just don't have it. Rodney Jerkins talks about how in awe, right? And I think that, okay, yes, you can be in awe. I think that's fine, but you're also not going to get the creative push and pull that I think that it takes to make great albums when you're in awe of the person that you're working with. And I think that Michael Jackson needed Quincy in order to reel him in some. When you have someone who has that much talent, it's gonna be hard to get the show back on the road, right? So you think about like songs like Earth Songs and Tabloid Junkie, it's all right. It's all right, but there's no groove in this. Quincy, you left us, man. I think Quincy should have just ran up in a session and just been like, hey, look, Slido, where's Greg Fillingane's chords in this? What is this? What is that? That is not human nature. That is not PYT. Hey, look, I love Mike, but that's not the business. You know what I think? I think that Michael's greatest strength was vision and the fact that he was a showman, right? But you don't get the hat. You don't get the glove. You don't get the jackets. You don't get any of that without Billie Jean, right? You don't get any of that without Beat It. And who produced those records? Like, because once you have the idea, once you have the music, now you can color in all of that stuff around it, right? Think about this. When you think about how great Thriller was. We've got three outfits from Thriller, right? So we've got the Beat It outfit. This is how great the songs were. No other artist has this. No other artist has just when you just lay a jacket down, you know who it is. So we've got the Thriller jacket, right? You just lay that down. You already know who it is. You already know what that is. If you take out the Beat It jacket, you don't say nothing. You just hold the jacket up. You know who that is. And you know who it is when you hold up the glove, which was the Billie Jean, which was part of the Billie Jean. That's how great Quincy's music was. That's how great his music was, right? And then if you want to go to the Bad album, we've got one solid outfit after that. We've got the the Smooth Criminal outfit, right? The white jacket with the blue sash around the arm. And if you want to throw Bad in there as an outfit, maybe you can identify who Michael is by that Bad outfit, maybe. But you've got a legitimate 4 outfits where you don't have to say one word, and you know who that is. That's how great Quincy's music was. Michael did not have another moment like that after. You know what we got with Mike in the history and the Dangerous? We got some weird ass loose thong, like a it was a cover with the thong with the strap coming up the middle of your butt. That's what type of outfit. That's what type of outfits we got. That's what we got dealing with Mike. And without Quincy, with Quincy, we got Billie Jean outfit Mike. We got Bad outfit Mike. We got Thriller jacket, right? These are outfits where you don't have to even say the song. You just put the jacket out there. You just lay the jacket down and you automatically know exactly who that is. No other artist has 3 of those. I don't even know if an artist has 1. He's got 3 off one album. And then if you want to include the Bad album, if you want to, I'm sorry, the Bad outfit, but we know Smooth Criminal. We know the Smooth Criminal outfit, and we know the Lean. He got the Lean again with Quincy Jones. We got the Lean. Yeah, everybody tried to do that Lean and fall off. Everybody tried. He had a song called Abortion Junkie. No, Abortion Letter. I'm sorry. He had a song called Abortion Letter. We don't need songs like that. And let me tell you something. If Quincy was there, we wouldn't have had to worry about no song talk about some abortion. Quincy would have that we would have never known that song existed. We would have never known that. But without Quincy, you got records like Abortion Junkie. You got records like Abortion Letter and Tabloid Junkie and all of these, like, you know, This Time Around with Michael cussing on the song. Not taking no shit. Why is that happening? Why is that in my world? I don't understand that. But again, I think that when you review Michael, taking it back to the beginning of what I said, you have to evaluate his career. Again, it's like Jesus. It's before Jesus and after Jesus. Where Michael is BQ, AQ. Before Quincy, after Quincy. That's how you have to evaluate his career, because there was some great moments after Quincy, but there were no great albums after Quincy. Dangerous, good album, not a great album. History, good album, not a great album. And Invincible, it's a good album. It is not a great album. And I know that people say Tommy Mottola and he didn't have to promote it and all that stuff. All that's true. And I like You Rock My World. I actually love that record. But you listen to that whole album all the way through, it's a good album. It was never gonna do what Thriller did. It was never gonna do what Bad did. It was never gonna do what Off the Wall did. And so, having said all of that, I think that it's not only the music that they produced together, but it's also the music that Quincy kept all of us from hearing and the music that he kept Michael from creating. So when you think about all the great albums that have come out that have been produced, great teams and your LA and Babyfaces, when those teams go in, your Dallas, Austin, when those producers go in and they go and work with artists, you think about all the great music they created. But what you don't think about is all the bad music that they kept that artist from creating. That's what you don't think about. And I think that's important when you think about Quincy Jones, when you think about him and Michael's, their creative marriage. I think that you also have to realize that how much terrible music that he kept us from, right? He kept us from a triple CD. That's what Michael wanted Bad to be. We didn't need all that. All we needed was them tight 11. All we needed was Another Part of Me. All we needed was The Way You Make Me Feel. All we needed was Liberian Girl. All we needed was Bad. I Just Can't Stop Loving You. Man in the Mirror. That's all we needed. We didn't need 33 songs. Thriller. Michael wrote 800 songs for Thriller. 800 songs. We didn't need all that. We didn't need 800 songs, man. But Quincy, again, he protected us. He protected us from all that bad music. But eventually, Michael got around to making Tabloid Junkie and some of those records. Michael wasn't a great record guy. He was a great showman. Quincy, great record guy. And the problem is that after Michael left Quincy, he was the creative superior in every room he walked in. When he was in the room with Quincy, he was not. When he was in the room with Berry Gordy, he was not. And the day he left Quincy, he left his creative, I would say, sensei. Quincy had him painting the house. Quincy had him, sand the deck, and when he left, when he started working with Teddy and he started working with Rodney, and some of those other guys, though they were great and they are great producers in their own right, they were in awe of Michael. And when you're in awe of the person that you're working with, sometimes that can compromise your ability to be able to give them constructive feedback, to say, no, we need to go in this direction. Quincy was the only one that was able to do that with Michael after they left Motown, in between, those 3 albums. And it was short-lived, right? If you think about like how long they worked together, right? Bad came out. When did Bad drop? Let me look. I want to see when Bad dropped. Bad dropped August 31st, 1987. Thriller dropped in 82. And then Off the Wall in 79. Man, that's only 8 years. In 8 years, they sold over 100 million albums together. In 8 years. Do you know how fire you gotta be in that short amount of time? They changed music.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.